over 6 years now. I had a testimony that I created where it was like, I had to reaffirm myself because I was living wrong. I was living dirty. I was a scumbag. I was very self-centered. I was very egotistic. I acted on all my desires. I didn't care about others. And this is all like wrongful living, and the universe will bring you to your knees. So on June 18th, 2015, I got on my knees and I asked Source, Creator, God, Allah, whatever you want to describe the name to. I call it Source because it's where all things came from. I got on my knees and I said, why am I here? What's my purpose? I don't understand. I should be dead. I want to be dead. Why can't I be dead? That was my attitude. And there was this guy that came into the prison and he was speaking and he was talking about, how our communities need us and how the world becomes a better place because of, basically the man in the mirror, we have to do that. You know what I mean?
Right.
So when he said these things, he said, he was looking around the room and there was a lot of people in the room and he locked eyes with me when he said this, and this I don't forget, right? He said, someone in this very room is going to be important. Someone in this very room is going to be a great leader. And it kind of struck my heart, man. It was like he was speaking directly to me. And I felt this inner light begin to grow. But when I died the second time, it took everything out of me. I didn't stop my active addiction right then and there. But when I hit the next jail cell, which was always the end result, wasn't shortly after that. It was only a couple, 2-3 months after that, being on my knees that night after, that particular self-help group, Bible study, whatever it was, I said to myself, there's got to be more purpose to my life. There's got to be more that I can do for myself, my family, my community. And I didn't know how I was going to do it, but that inner light began to grow. So I started a mantra while I was in state. That was when I was at the county level. When I went to state prison, which is we call it up top, here in Pennsylvania, we call it up top. When I went up top, I started this positive affirmation every day that I would follow Source's will for my life, no matter what, by any and all means necessary. And I would say that every day when I woke up, and I would say that every day when I went to sleep. And I tried to fill my days with activities, just like I had always had when I went to prison, with positive activities and reading various books. And I read a lot of books. I read books about the Gnostics. I read books about the ancient Assyrians. I read books about the ancient Sumerians. I read the Bible several times. I read the Quran. I read the Torah. I read all the different books and sacred texts and the Nag Hammadi scroll. I read everything. And when I say I read this stuff, I would read it and I would meditate on it and I would try to understand how it applied to me personally, how it applied to my life personally. The most interesting material I came across was a guy named Edgar Cayce. He was called the Sleeping Prophet. He was in early 1900s. This guy, when he was a child, he got hurt, and he was able to go into these trance-like states throughout the rest of his life. And there's a whole organization down in Virginia Beach based on his readings. And he did over 14,000 transcribed readings. He had stenographers in the room, and he did it. For the first half of his life, most of his readings were medical related, how to fix different types of ailments and different situations that people found themselves in when it came to medical issues back then. But he was a hardcore Christian, so this kind of conflicted with his with his belief system. This man was like a Sunday school preacher and like read the Bible every day, the whole thing through, year after year, his whole life. And it kind of conflicted with him, but what had happened was he had his dark night of the soul, kind of like how I had mine. One of the people he came across was this guy named Blumenthal. Blumenthal turned around and said, "Have you ever asked any of the important questions?" And he said, "Well, what do you mean? What do you mean by important?" Like he was taking for granted his life as a child of God, reading the Bible and everything. He never, there is no question in his mind, like we just live and we die and this is what it is in between. And whatever this power or source that he was tapping into was helping people, and that's all he cared about. Like all his readings, nothing was ever disproved. He was never like exposed as a fraud or anything. And some pretty prominent people over, his lifetime that were around on the planet at that time had contacted him and got readings, But he would give readings for everything, But you could study this man. Yeah, you could study this man. It's like real significant stuff. But this is what I'm getting at. When this guy asked him, "Have you asked those questions?" Like, he proposed that he would ask questions about the origin of mankind and the origin of the planet and the place of astrology and occultic beliefs, like stuff that was hidden from the masses, since the conception of our species. Like there's people that are at the top of the food chain on this planet right now that know things and have known things for many, many ages. And like they keep passing that knowledge down, and it's the same intergenerational crime families that run our planet right now from back then. Like their kids and their kids' are all the people that you see on TV and the people that you see in the newspapers and the ones giving us all these directions in life. They basically socially engineered our society to be what it is today. And they still are. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Raylan. You're absolutely right. And your name is so beautiful. Ray, like the rays from the sun, and Lynn, pretty, all beautiful. I love that. And like I said, it makes me think of the Buddhist philosophy. But yes. All right, so
the people that run the world.
Yeah, so this, this Edgar Casey guy, right? So when he had his dark night of the soul, kind of like how I did a couple years back in prison, and like his life changed because he allowed these readings to go on with these type of questions being posed. And basically what it looks like is, humanity, source is at the center of the hub of a wheel of life. And like we have all these different sects and religions and genders and cultures and beliefs and philosophies and, languages and, creeds and, colors and all these different things that we have in our society. They all originate from the hub in the center, which is source. And that just rang true with me. Because like all the stuff that I was reading showed that we as a society, like these engineers that have been like cultivating us and bringing us along, like children, basically, they understand psychology. So they've been manipulating us with this divide and conquer strategy. Like they even talk about it in the Bible a little bit when you read about the Tower of Babel. Like when they scattered the peoples, we all were one, and like now we're all divide and conquer, chaos, problem, reaction, solution. That's called the Hegelian dialect. Okay, so you got these people that are like controlling us and running us. But this man, he was able to go into what he coined the phrase of, which is Akashic record. A lot of people talk about this Akashic record today, and they have no idea that this man's the one that coined it. What's interesting about the early 1900s is you had a lot of things going on. You had this Madame Blavatsky with the Theosophical Society going on. You had Aleister Crowley was coming into the mix, and he was basically engineering how government was going to be. And all these different secret societies and all these different organizations, they all know this knowledge, and they tapped into this knowledge, and they keep tapping into it. And, people that I got a good friend, his name's Mark Passio. He teaches online this thing called natural law. And natural law is like basically like the Hermetic Code. It's the 7 Hermetic principles. I mean, you know, in our society, a Hermes bag is like the most prized possession a woman can own, right? Well, there's a reason for that. You know, Hermes was like, you know, he was the man. You know, he was the top dog back in the day. Like, you know, not only did he live a really long time and transform himself many times, like almost like Christ, right? Okay. But you know, he introduced wisdom. He introduced the monolithical, not the monolithical, but the mono God, you know, where there's only one God instead of many gods. You know, there's deities, but there's only one God. You know, there's only one source. Yeah, so that, I mean, that's just, there's stuff that's happened to me since my transformation. You know, like, and I can't deny it. Like, every time I turn around, I fall ass backwards into a boatload of money. Every time I go to apply it to things that are helpful to others, it all comes together. Like, everything comes together and it all makes sense. Like you can't keep it unless you give it away. That's something I learned from the 12 steps, but that actual phrase came from Edgar Cayce. You know, so like, I just work to try to help others. Now, this job that I work at, I get to work with people that have, you know, mild to severe mental health issues and disorders. And most of them have drug and alcohol issues too. So, you know, like, I'm in recovery myself, like I said, and I'm able to, like, be like this lighthouse, this beacon of hope for them. Right. You know, so it's like, I should be dead. I should be under a bridge, like, you know, putting a needle in my arm. I should be in state prison somewhere. I shouldn't be, like, out here walking around living life. I wasn't supposed to be, according to what society engineered around me. You know, it wasn't my upbringing. My parents, you know, and the people that raised me and my environmental factors had nothing to do with my own personal choices. My own personal choices were influenced by the society that we live in. You know, like watching gangster movies or listening to certain types of music, you know, basically prepared me to be a scumbag. You know, and that's what I did most of my life. So I'm trying to redeem myself, and that's why I go underwater with these doubles, and I keep going and dealing with all the stuff. But dying the second time like that, it was different than the first time. The first time it was like I was surrounded by, like, you know, all these people. Like, there was a whole thing I went through, but, you know, that was very significant. But the second time it was scary because I could feel, but I was in total darkness, like an abyss. I could feel, and I was all alone, and like, I don't ever want to be there again. So my plan to not be alone from that day forward, you know, once I got clean and sitting in a jail cell, my plan was to not be alone anymore. You know, like, to try to find a connection with something or someone, you know, something that was going to make me redeem myself. You know, my own personal salvation plan. Yeah. But, you know, like, the reason I talk about Edgar Cayce is he's had a lot of influence. Like, I've read probably 100 books on this man, you know, that were written about him. And, you know, like, he fortified the Hermetic Code as the basis of all things. You know, like, all the major religions that exist. You got Judaism, right, which spawned Christianity and Islam, right? But Judaism came from Egypt. You know, Moses, you know, rolled out of Egypt, you know, but Moses was probably Tutmosis. You know, like, Tutmosis was the one that had the sarcophagus and the pyramid and all that other stuff going on. But, you know, Tutmosis was probably Moses, and Moses led him out of Egypt, but he took the knowledge with him when he left. But the Hermetic Code, that's the basis of all things. You got mentalism, you got correspondence, you got vibration. Yeah, so, like, the one that was missing, though, and the one that my friend Mark talks about, which is, like, huge, man, it's care. Care was the one that was missing. That's the 8th principle that was lost. And the only way you could really, like, from lip to ear. Like all these martyrs that have come through that we have in our recorded history, they all talked about, loving thy brother like thyself, right? That's what they talk about. That's the golden rule, like to love others the way you love self. Sometimes I wonder if it was a selfish thing to love others, like a self-survival technique, like
love others before you love yourself.
Yeah, not that you don't love yourself, but you have to look at everything in, balance.
But sometimes, even with that, people are always doing things for other people, putting themselves on the back burner, just to, make themselves feel good. So it's not even like, it's like you're still neglecting a part of you because you're not taking care of yourself first to take care of other people.
Yeah, I don't think it means being a doormat. The easiest thing you could give to somebody, like if you see like a homeless person on the street, is money. You could give them money, but I'd rather give people seeds, that they can nurture and raise up to be, fruitful things in their life. Like, for example, I would rather teach somebody something than just hand it to them. Like a lot of in this society that we've created, everything's on demand, everything's instant. They want it now. They don't want to wait. Like these are all the things that a lot of people don't understand. That we're hurting ourselves by being this way. The average person doesn't have the basic skills to care for self or their family without the system in place around us. But if you go back in our history 150 years ago on this planet, in this country, like we didn't have to rely on any systems. We were self-sufficient. And we're just moving further and further into this trap of enslavement. And that's what it is. I just got off the phone with my cousin over in Jersey, and her husband's job just made him sign a contract. In order to work where he works, he cannot leave the state. And if he does, he has to quarantine himself for 14 days without any pay. Right. And then the same thing if someone goes to visit him from out of state. I mean, it doesn't matter if someone comes from another state. I thought this thing was everywhere. I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of things that didn't make sense with this. The one thing that doesn't make sense to me that's really, like, questionable is, like, if this thing's so goddamn contagious the way they say it is, why do I have to have somebody stick something all the way up my nostril? And there's actually anal testing where they can stick something all the way up your butthole. I don't understand why that it has to be so intrusive. Like, shouldn't I be able to spit on a napkin and, here you go. Can you test that and find out what's going on with that? I'm only using logic here. But the other thing is,
it's supposed to be like, I can't even be in a car with you. I have to wear a mask. I can't even be in the same.
Right. All this stuff going on. Look, I've been.
So that means I should be able to go hut you into a napkin, and you should be able to.
Yeah, exactly.
Why do you have to touch my
inner brain somewhere? Like, that just doesn't even make any sense to me. But the other thing is like, you're not going to tell me I have the flu and I'm sick. Like, I tell you I have the flu. That's how that works. Like, nobody's going to tell me I have the flu unless I have the flu. I just, there's certain things that are going on that don't make sense to me. The other thing is this whole fight about vaccines. I mean, it's my body. I'll put what I want into it. If
I want the vaccine, get the vaccine. If I don't, why is it going to be forced?
Well, the other thing is it's not just the forced part. It's just, if you're vaccinated and I'm not, why are you worried about me?
Thank you.
It's just common.
Where's the logic?
Like, there's no logic going on.
But you know why? Because they're putting it out there. There's no logic. Because why am I putting something in my body that is not protecting me from still getting?
Right, and now I'm at risk of the injury that substance can cause in my life, and there is injury.
Yeah,
it's being reported everywhere.
They're not really holding on to that.
They're not telling you that on the news. They don't want you to. That goes against their agenda. So, You know, they have agendas in place, but they've been engineering this whole concept and idea. I just saw one of my memories on Facebook. It said, before this election's over, we'll be entering the Third World War, and we have. It's the war against humanity. It's the war against humanity.
Yeah.
With this COVID and everything else, like coronaviruses, from the study that I've read and the things that I've read, they've been around, you know, as long as humanity's been around. So the common cold is a coronavirus.
Okay.
You know, and I like, you know, everybody has different opinions on the science and everything else. That's fine, but I don't think the risk outweighs the benefit for me personally. My own daughter is a victim of vaccination injury.
Oh, wow.
So I don't, you know, like I'm not buying into none of this bullshit, because I learned that these companies that create these vaccines and all, they don't have liability. There's no accountability for them. They're like the district attorney in a courtroom of criminal law. Like, they could say and do whatever the hell they want and walk away from the scene laughing about it, and even like shouting from the mountaintops that they're laughing about it. And there's nothing anybody can do about it. There's no recourse, which means there's no retribution. There's no way for us to get back, you know, our loss, whatever that is, compensation or life or liberty or whatever. You know, like there's no recourse, and that, you know,
anything that they, first of all, when they said they were giving out money to take a vaccine, I was like, wow. That's deep. Like, you're gonna pay me to take it now?
Yeah, so that's bribery. We all know what's going on there. That's another thing. Like, I'm very suspect of anything that's being peddled and pushed by the mainstream. Like, most of the peddling, pushing from the mainstream has not done any good for our society at all, or our species. It definitely hasn't done anything to increase the amount of love we need to have. It doesn't make any sense that we have homelessness. It doesn't make any sense that these kids are still getting shot and killed in the street by cops when we have non-lethal means to subdue people today. But, you know, every time someone's going to believe in the concept of authority over another, which is government, which is gubermentis, that's the origin of that word. Guber means control, and mentis is mind. Like, they're telling us that they're mind controlling us. You know, like, a lot of people don't understand. Like, it's right in front of our face. We've liquidated our language to the point where slavery is now an option. Authority and mind control is now an option, and we've always been on the cusp of that, but this is a line that they're crossing. You know, we don't know what kind of engineering is going into this vaccine, and, you know, like, they didn't just recently produce, you know, we don't know what kind of engineering is going into this vaccine, and, you know, like, they didn't just recently produce this. This has been around. They've been cultivating this, whatever this is, and getting ready to unleash it on to humanity for the purposes of either depopulation or control of those that take the vaccine. You know, and it is both. It is both, because they have to liquidate, they have to extinguish, they have to destroy. They have to liquidate, they have to extinguish, they have to destroy a portion of this population, because we are way too overpopulated. You know,
and resources are getting thin.
Well, the resources is what the last wars are about. You know, like, and we're you know, like, that's been going on, you know, since I've been on this planet. You know, this lifetime, that's definitely been going on. I watched it not too long ago with what's his name, Gaddafi. And I'm not saying I'm a proponent of Gaddafi and his policies over in Libya, but I am saying this: the man wanted to create a currency, the African Kruger, which was a gold coin that was going to be the only way you could purchase oil and resources from that land over there, the whole northern Africa, which is OPEC and the oil and all that other stuff. He, you know, as soon as he started talking like that and proposing those kind of things, and this was a man that gave, you know, money away to people because they got married in this country. This was a man that gave free health care and free college education to his people, you know, without any charge, and it was good stuff. I watched a video where he was like literally standing up on a pulpit on the back of a vehicle driving through his whole city for an hour, and nobody was taking shots at him and everybody was cheering him on. Now, whether they were cheering him out of fear or not, he's in an open you know, like there was no bubble around him like the Pope or anything. Like somebody could have took his ass out, right, easily, and nobody would, because, you know, what's the alternative? You know, like he was doing pretty right for them. But when he started talking that Kruger shit, and he said that they weren't going to accept the American dollar for, you know, they weren't going to accept the American dollar as a form of payment for oil anymore. They got rid of his ass. And I'm sure...
No, this is new from where? Haiti?
No, this was Gaddafi in Libya,
okay,
North Africa.
Oh, okay.
You know,
they just killed the Duggar King over in I think they said Haiti, because he wasn't down with the vaccines or something.
Oh yeah, they're gonna get rid of all of them. But see, I was in a car with a guy the other day, Turkish guy. He's from Turkey, and he was just over there 2 weeks ago, and all his people are like anti-vax. He said he don't know anybody that's lining up to get that shit. He said what they show you on the news is not what's real over there. And then I've got a girl that I speak to from the Philippines. She says no vaccine, no vaccine. You know, like she's anti-vax, and all her family, you know, there are certain people that went and got it, but, you know, I don't know.
Because it's like certain jobs that were making people get it.
Yeah, well, that's the line.
She's in the Navy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think she had to get it because she's in the Navy.
Yeah. So whether this first injection is going to be the one that kills people or not, or, you know, controls people or not, who knows? But if they mandate, you know, genetically engineering our society as a way of life, because that's what this is going to turn into, that vaccine actually has RNA changing properties in it, and this is the first of its kind. Like what they're saying is it goes in and it changes the DNA of the human.
So you know, like trying to be like X-Men.
Well, I'm sure that they can do that with certain people. They're not going to want to do that with the population because they don't want us to overpower them. We are in control, though. We are the most powerful beings on this planet. No matter what they do to us as individuals, when we come together as a collective, we are very powerful. My thing is, I'm pushing for 51% of the collective consciousness of humanity. That's why I created this show. That's why I go online. That's why the revelation of John is real for me. Because I think that if we could get the tipping of, you know, most people in the know of what's really going on, but also just to follow their heart and common sense. You know, like those things we talked about with like spitting on a napkin. Like that's simple stuff. Like it's never been this way. Why is it this way? And you know, that's a question that someone really should ask themselves. You know, most
and
people.
It's like this new variant is supposed to be also so contagious or whatever, but you're not doing lockdowns anymore. You're not mandating masks, but you're mandating vaccines.
Yeah, you're mandating a lot of control.
A lot of control stuff. It's not nothing that makes sense. I just don't get it. And then to be perfectly honest, I just feel like this. Okay. God bless those who have lost families to the COVID. You know. But I'm gonna say one thing. I never know how they can like, oh, but 10,000 people died in this state. Whole families died over here.
Right.
I'm like, where are these people at?
Right.
Where did the whole family die at?
Yeah.
They're all here in the United States. Where is all these tens of millions or hundreds of thousands of people at that died?
Right.
You're saying that you're in the hospital and you don't have no beds. I just left the hospital. There's plenty of beds.
Not only is there plenty of beds, but there's nobody lining up at the hospital door.
Okay.
I've been there, so I know. But that's not to say that they're not going to do something that's going to have everybody at the hospital doors.
Exactly.
You know, you never know what their next move is going to be.
They can portray things on. Once I seen that movie Argo.
Oh yeah, that's great.
I just was like, you know what?
They're telling us what they do.
They're telling us what they can do.
Yeah.
That they can make a whole narrative and just put it in the media, and the people will see it and they will follow it. And then behind the scenes, they're doing a whole nother thing.
Yeah. So that's what I was saying with the intergenerational crime families. Like they're in the know. They know what's going on. They're not doing any. And anytime anybody comes out and speaks out against it, whether it was 100 years ago with the civil rights movement, Martin Luther King, John F. K, Robert, Kennedy, whatever. Or today, like people like Nipsey Hussle or Justine Diamond or, Justine Damon, D-A-M-O-N-D, Justine. She was a beautiful person. She was from Australia. And like before Black Lives Matter became something, she was killed, right? Like a long time ago. And this was 2017, something like that. She was killed in her backyard. And I put up a post that said Spiritual Lives Matter at the time, because she was killed and she was like highly evolved spiritual being. Like she was teaching people things that made sense, like how our minds can control our bodies and how our hearts can influence those around us and the world we live in. They think that they've got us all convinced that money is the solution, that money's going to be, what creates freedom, what creates love, what creates connect. Yeah, they've got the one eye, they've got that all figured out for us. But we're humans, man. They're never going to be able to stop us from gathering. They're never going to be able to stop us from coming together as a collective to better ourselves. Like if they were to turn the lights off tomorrow, and they're not going to, because they're still gathering their own resources for whatever the hell's coming. Underground, I don't know what's coming, whether it's well, a lot of people say a polar flip, like where like basically the planet shakes us off like a bunch of fleas, and whoever's, protected's protected, whoever's not protected isn't protected, but, or if it's going to be something where they just unleash something that kills everybody, like whether it is a contagious virus that they all of a sudden get rid of, or, let us just battle it all out in the streets, for whatever resources are left and available. I mean, that's going to happen at first, but, as a collective, we're going to come together as a species again, like we always do, and build some kind of, beautiful thing this time around. I mean, if that actually occurs. I mean, we have the power to stop it at any time. All we need is 51%. We're more powerful in our hearts than all the machines and energy ever produced by man, and that's one person. And wow. They don't want you to know that. They don't want you to know that what you care about, what you put your care into, is going to be the major influences in your daily routine, your daily lifestyle. How you impact those around you. I say it all the time, the principle of care, that's the most important thing. Like, pay attention to what you care about, so.
That's why I love the Care Bears.
Oh, the Care Bears are cute. But I'm sure there was an agenda there too, but yeah.
That was like the caring. They came from their heart, and when they would connect hands and get together, then they pushed out this energy and this positivity to everybody because they were connected. So
what you can learn from the Care Bears, imagine that, right? What you can learn from the Care Bears. Yeah, no, that's the absolute truth, though. Well, and I put up a lot of videos that have to do with that, where like you can see the power being thrown out from the heart, because the ancient Native Americans, they claimed that they could feel the heartbeat of another member of their family or community up to 5 miles away. They knew when people were getting close. It wasn't just the sound of the horses or the smell of the fire. There was a heartbeat that they can detect and feel, like a train on a track.
Right.
But humanity's the train on the track right now. Yeah. And our heartbeat's, very, very dull and very dim, and they're trying to darken it, but we're not built like that. We're going to be better than that at the end. We're definitely going to be better than that.
It's like the GPS. It's so funny now, because I think like now kids kind of miss out on being able to figure out where they are going on their own.
Sure.
Because just like you said with the heart and everything, I sometimes think about when there was no GPS and how we would find our way. It was like, how did I really find this place? Like, I'm from Wilmington, Delaware, but somebody is telling me to come up here.
Right.
Conshohocken, go past the river. You're going to see the Boathouse Row. And it's like, oh, okay, we're going the right way. But it was like when you were in the vicinity of where you're trying to get to, it's like you could feel the heartbeat. Like you knew, we are in the right place.
Yeah.
We just got to pin
that radar, and that's when I was early on in this thing, I used to describe to people how real the spiritual world was. I say things like, if you knew how real the spiritual world was, you would never pick your nose or masturbate again. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's my joke. But the truth of the matter is that, like, the spiritual world is like frequencies and interdimensional planes that exist all around us at all times, and everything is connected to it. As above, so below. That's correspondence. That's the second Hermetic principle. Like, we don't have what we have in our society today unless spirit had something to do with it. Now, whether you're using negative energies or positive energies, that's up to you. And whether you're doing it by your own free will choice or you're being influenced or authoritated into doing it, that's another thing. That's what we're talking about. That's what this whole conversation's been about. But I describe spirit like holy. The word holy goes back to separated. So it's something that's separate from the physical world that we're in. Like my words are a frequency that gets sent out, but separate from that is the spirit world. So it's like a frequency. You just have to have the right antenna. And like a lot of people, their brains are antennas. And we're walking around and we're using our eyes and our ears to hear and see things, but we're not using our hearts to really feel things. And they've been real good at dumbing us down when it comes to heart play. They've got us, between music and television, movies, and our education system and everything else, we don't understand our heart. It's the only part of our body that, there's, other organs too, but it's one of the things in our body that doesn't have the same kind of symmetry that, like, our hands and our eyes and, our brain has. It's, the heart is, there's real interesting studies. Look up heart math. Heart math is really interesting. It tries to make a science out of feeling. Make a science out of consciousness, and the direct connection. There's just a lot, man. There's just a lot. It's hard to get it all out in one sitting.
We just were studying. I studied the Bible, so we were in Bible study, and we're talking about the heart and how stresses and things like that can clog up the heart, manifest in sickness in your heart, holding grudges and things like that.
Absolutely.
So, me and my
resentments,
younger
expectations,
sister,
all those things.
All of it. So me and my younger sister, we're just like getting on this plane of being able to talk with each other. Not that it has to come from my way, but just that it's not reciprocated in a way from her. So I just kind of just let her do her thing and, speak or whatever it is, what it is. So she ends up fainting the other day and having like heart attack symptoms.
Yeah.
Working out, she's trying to eat better, all this good stuff. Well, gets to the hospital, she has a blood clot on the right and the left side of her heart.
Yeah, blockage.
Right. So all I can think about is the study that we were just talking about the heart and how that manifested.
Do you remember
in her?
Do you remember what the what chapter? What was it? The Gospel, like the New Testament, the Old Testament? Do you remember or no?
God, I don't remember. But I think it was the Old Testament.
Okay.
Because we've been in the Old Testament.
Okay.
So it had to been like we've been doing. So Monday nights, because it's different nights. So Genesis is on Thursday, and then we were just doing Ruth or something like that. So she jumps all over sometimes, depending on how she moves. And Leviticus, that's sacrifices. Leviticus.
Yeah, Leviticus
is really about sacrifices.
It is about sacrifices, but the other thing is like the whole entire Old Testament is all about preparing the heart. And then the way we're supposed to live is the New Testament, which is to live Christ-like. They don't want us... Look, Christ does not want you to worship him. He does not want you to get on your knees and worship him. What he wants is you to respect and appreciate creation, all of creation, everything in it. That's what Christ wants. And the way to do that is the way he did it, by being his example, by sacrificing self for others. That doesn't mean to put yourself in harm's way and not defend yourself and all that. What it means is for you to treat everyone like they're an extension. He did it by being his example, by sacrificing self for others. That doesn't mean to put yourself in harm's way and not defend yourself and all that. What it means is for you to treat everyone like they're an extension to you, whether it's the leaf on the tree or the four-legged. What it means is for you to treat everyone like they're an extension to you, whether it's the leaf on the tree or the four-legged furry. As you know, I just know that the aggravation and crap that I give to immediately, they can immediately identify that you're one of them.
Yeah.
They can immediately identify it. It's why I think I have such an impact on so many people there. You know, whether it's co-workers or, you know, the people at the top of the food chain there, or, you know, the patients and clients that we deal with. You know, but it influences me. It helps me to have boots on the ground, actual work with caring for others. Which, you know, I do things online as like a huge platform to try to reach many, many people. But my whole...
Is that the name of your...
The Revelation. Which, you know, I do things online as like a huge platform to try to reach many, many people. But my whole...
Is that the name of your...
The Revelation of John show, yup. Yeah. Yeah, that's it.
I watched the Revelation. It's funny because I watched this other thing called the Revelation of Christ.
It's hard to go with Christ because there's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of division there. You know, people have twisted what that entity came through to do. They twisted it up pretty good. But like that, like I was talking about Edgar Cayce. Edgar Cayce puts him in a really good perspective. He talks about it being this soul entity that was the first Adam, and he became the second Adam. You know, that's why it's the New Testament, not the Old Testament. You know, and when he and he's influenced humanity since the beginning, and when of how we should go about it. You know, like
in man form.
Yeah, in man form, right. You know, but you can find beauty.
To come down to see, look.
Yeah, well, all those.
I'm getting it this way, and I'm gonna come in human form and show y'all how to do it.
Yeah, but a lot of people don't even understand the word Christ itself actually means anointed.
Right.
You know, to be anointed. Like, you got to go back to the origins of these words. You know, not to say that Source doesn't, you know, actually unfold things in a historical way the way he has, like whether the book of Revelation is going to come to manifest in a historical way, the way that, you know, that that John had written it down, but he...
Revelation of John.
Yeah, and, you know, like... Yeah, so he may have done it that way in a historical facet, but it's also a whole nother division of, you know, a whole nother realm of, you know, esoteric, metaphysical, you know, like how it applies to self, how it applies to your community and humanity. That whole entire book was written about self. You know, even though it may be historical accounts and everything, it applies to you directly. And it will if you read it. It's like the AA Big Book. You know, that's one of those books, when you read it, it'll apply to you personally, you know. But it's always when you're ready. You know, nothing's ever going to be revealed to anybody until they're ready. Like, I can shout from the rooftops all day long about, you know, the end of times and, you know, what Revelation means and all this other stuff. But until it becomes your practical experience that, you know, that you're living, you know, whether you're caring or not caring, you know, and what you're placing your care into, you're always going to care about something. But what it is you're caring about is, you know, where the distractions come in, where they've gotten us, you know. People can't hear you unless you're meeting them where they're at. So, I don't know, Miss Raylyn, it was nice hanging out with you.
Yes, sir. You have a car. I have a bike. We're just going to switch it up like that. So how do I...